Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. This is Joe, the bearded historian. He'll tell you an interesting story. Be careful of his soldiers, they can be brats. This is Angel, she's an entity. She'll cause chaos and plant her hands at you. This is Sue, she likes spirits, not the alcohol. She's the reason this channel exists. This is David, he likes fire trucks. He's here occasionally. Bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong, bing bongy bong. We preserve his story. Alright, good morning, peoples. It is Wednesday. It is almost Valentine's Day. So if that's a day that you celebrate, congratulations. We haven't decided what we're doing yet. Nothing's caught our attention this year, so it's kind of a, what do we do year? Well, we'll figure it out. Are you ready? We've got a Cupid race, because, Valentine's Day is coming up. You ready? Here we go. Shout out time. Here's a shout out just for you. You support me, so I support you. This shout out is for our friends. Let's see who it is today. Start. There we go. Alright, so we got She Stole, This Hiking Ontario. There's Jocelyn, there's Josie, there's Cable, there's Moonsey, there's Hugo, there's Ian, there's M and J, Smile Dig, Keep Digging, Frugal, Peach, Richard Leo, Mark, Carzo, Sunrise, Bobby, Bluegrass, 40, Faces, let's see, Jamaican, JB, Misty, Heart Mix, Griselda, Marcus is currently in the lead. Let's see here. Who else do I see? There's Carol. There's Bobby. There's Sophia. There's Patty. Oh, it's going to be close. I think it was Pedro. Hang on a minute. Yep, it was Pedro. Hold on. Alright, this is Pedro's Travels. And this is one of our Johns, as you can see. And he does. Based in California, like to travel anywhere and everywhere. And then see, here's some history. Those of you who like history. There's a traveling. A Carnival. And we've got some shorts, which is a really cool tree. I like that. And of course some lives. Hasn't done in a couple months, but those are always fun. So check out Mr. Pedro. Like, share, comment, and enjoy some NASCAR records. This came up because David shared something about NASCAR. Joe was doing research, and so topic. Hope you don't mind my pictures, they're kind of weird. Alright, in honor of the fluffy boy of fluffy boys, that made sense.
Yes.
We're doing a thing.
We're going to...
No, I'm not doing a thing. Joe's doing a thing.
I'm doing a thing. But this week, unless you've been living under a rock, is the wind-up to the Daytona 500. It's basically the kickoff for the NASCAR season. They have 2 heats that will decide the starting order as well as the qualifying, which will give us the pole sitters. But all in all, it'll be a rather exciting event, which may result in 40 or 41 racers taking part in the Grand Tradition. Now, some things that we've discovered is that sometimes it's not the best racer who's going to win first place. It might just come down to this fun thing called luck.
That's a big thing.
Some of the guys that we've seen pull off miracles in the history. When you think about Austin Cindric, he was a rookie. upset the field and won in 2022. They also had a guy named Marvin Pants, nicknamed Poncho. Was an 11th hour addition to Smokey Yunick's team back in '61. Fielded cars for the primary driver, Fireball Roberts. Well, the late forming arrangement meant Ponch was left with a year-old Pontiac that was less aerodynamic than its rivals, but when race-long dominator Roberts retired with engine failure, Ponch capitalized, leading the last 13 laps for a caution-free event. Had a guy from Iowa named Tiny Lund. In '63, he was a journeyman who was a late substitute for Marvin Panch under amazing circumstances. Panch was pulled from a fiery sports car crash at Daytona just 10 days earlier. Well, pressed into service in the Wood Brothers number 21 Lund, who ran with car owner Glenn Wood, held off the Hall of Famers Fred Lorenzen and Ned Jarrett to score his first Premier Series victory. Now, sometimes you also have some of these racers that'll come out of other forms of racing. In this case, Mario Andretti. Mario Andretti is pretty much well known as a open-wheel class driver in the Indy Series. But he's also run in NASCAR at a time. A relative outsider who had only 14 starts in what is now the NASCAR Cup Series. He would wheel a fast Ford from the Holman Mooney shop, led 112 laps of 200, and went 1 and 2 with his teammate Fred Lorenzen in the Great American Race in '67. Now, Pete Hamilton, another relative newcomer in his first ever Premier Series, would win in 1970 when he winged the Petty Enterprises Plymouth to victory lane. Hamilton, who hails from Massachusetts in a time when NASCAR was a largely regional southern sport, posted his breakthrough triumph in just his 21st start. Real early in your career to pull that off. Guy named Derek Cope, 1990. Interestingly enough, he would only lead for 5 laps. But, as the irony would go, in the final circuit, in a stunning plot twist, Dale Earnhardt's dominance, he would lead for 155 laps, but then evaporated when he fell from the lead with a punctured tire just half a lap from the finish. Cope would scoot past to notch his first victory in what is still considered one of the sport's biggest upsets. Well, yeah. In 2001, Michael Waltrip would make his first start for Dale Earnhardt Inc. in the 2001 opener. He would break a winless streak of 462 races. Ooh. Now pay attention to those zeros because that'll come up a little later. Sadly, Waltrip's initial joy would turn to anguish because of the death of NASCAR icon Dale Earnhardt Sr., who took a chance on Waltrip by putting him in his number 15 Chevrolet. In the last lap crash remains the lasting memory from that day. That was quite a sick event, too. 2011, Trevor Bayne shocked everybody. An unproven driver making just a second start. Stunned the field by surviving a pair of late race restarts that pushed the race 8 laps past the scheduled distance. Oops. Now, the key thing to think about there is that, when they get into the last 5 laps, if there's an accident, anymore, it's almost like a foregone conclusion. They bunch them all up, they start it off again, and sometimes it'll add 2-3 laps to the circuit. Another accident happens. They cram them all together again. They push it. The thing is, though, when you think about it, some of these racers, they were already budgeting, we might have enough gas for another 6 laps. We might have enough gas left for 8 laps. But sometimes you just simply will, not be able to keep it going. 8 laps. Bain illustrated the magnitude of this upset by telling the Wood Brothers crew over the radio, "Are you kidding me? What?" When he drove the 21 Ford to victory lane. Austin Dillon, another name that comes out of the woodworks, he piloted the number 3 20 years earlier by Dale Earnhardt to victory. The young man in Victory Lane did the exact same thing. After moving Eric Almirola to the NASCAR overtime, Austin Dillon led just one lap, but it was the one that mattered most when he went on to win that Great American Race. The iconic car number returned to Victory Lane in an iconic race. Then you got Michael McDowell's in 2021. And that's the other thing that comes down to it is a lot of it is either luck, if you trust your spotters. Sometimes, it might just be a rookie that just happens to catch the break. The crowd goes wild. But going back to our original happy viewership, I started looking up some of these records that NASCAR has. And it's kind of crazy, some of these numbers. One of the first ones when we talk about people who basically have their name in the history books, you think about things in baseball, for example. You've got, Barry Bonds, you've got Babe Ruth, you've got Hank Aaron, you got Cal Ripken Jr. with his consecutive starts. You got Ted Williams with his, batting average. Just, things that happen in sports, and you look at those numbers that will never be broken. Cy Young with his wins mark. Nolan Ryan's on strikeouts and no hitters, Now, for racing, it's kind of crazy. Richard Petty, he's got this one all to himself. 1,185 starts in the NASCAR Cup Series. One guy put it pretty bluntly. He says, now, if NASCAR was to find an ungodly talented 20-year-old and backed by Fort Knox with a race and championship caliber ride, the kid would have to run almost 33 full seasons to approach that number. That's a long time to be behind the wheel of a race car. Not going to happen. Now, Petty also holds several other positive NASCAR records. Most starts, poles, victories, top fives, top tens, races led, and laps led. The interesting part on this is he also has a dubious record. Most losses. For the 200 victories from his 1,185 starts, well, you do have 985 losses. It's one thing. Everybody at the race, you either get one win or you get one of 40 losses. Kind of an ugly stat to look at, but it happens for people. Some of these other records they mentioned, Ricky Rudd, Bill Elliott, Mark Martin, Jeff Gordon, Ned Jarrett, the late J.D. McDuffie, and current star Jimmy Johnson. Now, among these, this one was impressive just because of the fact that how hard it is just to win one race. Richard Petty, back in 1967, would win 10 of them consecutively. That's almost unheard of in any sport. In 1967, he would win 10 consecutive races between August the 12th and October 1st. Some of these were short tracks, some of these were super speedways. You had Winston-Salem in North Carolina, Columbia, South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, the super speedway at Darlington, back to the short tracks at Hickory, North Carolina, Richmond, Virginia, Beltsville, Maryland, Hillsborough, North Carolina, Martinsville, Virginia, and North Wilkesboro, North Carolina. Interestingly enough, the streak would come to an end when an injury-related finish of 18th at Charlotte in early October. In addition to leading the consecutive victory list, Petty also was second on that list with 6 straight in 71. The same year, Bobby Allison would win 5 straight. And for the record, both Allison and Petty, they love to duel back and forth. And it's almost like watching two guys play chess in the park. They love duking it out. Now, Richard Petty wasn't just the impressive stat in 67. he won more than half the schedule's 47 races. He beginning with the season opener in November of 1966. Now, he won 1 race in March, 4 in April, 3 each in May and June, 5 in July. That foreshadowed the 10-race rampage. Petty again also second on the single season victories list with 21. So, 27 in 1 year and 21 in the following year. That's some pretty good numbers. The guy pretty much owned racing those 2 years. Again, Richard Petty racking up 200 victories. Interestingly enough, Petty, the sport's biggest winner, stayed too long. In the last 8 seasons of his career, he would go 0 for 241. Basically, you're going up there and taking a strikeout for your team. He got number 199 on March 20th, 1984 at Dover, and then reached 200, interestingly enough, by beating Harry Gant, not Cale Yarborough, as most people think, on July the 4th, 1984 at Daytona Beach, Florida. Sadly, he would never win again, slogging around with little distinction in the twilight of a career that ended with a wreck-related 35th place in a November 15th, 1992 contest, season finale near Atlanta. The late Dave Pearson is a distant second with 105 victories, and with 83, the soon-to-retire Jimmy Johnson is first among active winners. Now, when you come to speed and you come to NASCAR, one of the first things everybody thinks is, how fast is they going? Because, it's like a small airplane running around that track. Well, the interesting part on this is that back in the day, cars used to go a whole lot faster. And in a way, I kind of miss those days. One of my favorite drivers was from this period, a guy by the name of Bill Elliott. Now, interestingly enough, he set a lap record in qualifying of 212.809 miles per hour in 1987. The thing that made it kind of interesting is that 2 days later, they would have an accident happen at the Talladega Superspeedway when Bobby Allison would sail into the fencing on May 3rd, 1987. Well, the car's engine exploded, shattering debris that cut a rear tire. The car turned around, lifted backwards into the tri-oval fencing, and shedding parts and pieces that injured several fans. Well, NASCAR, seeing what this speed phenomenon was causing, quickly came up with an idea that was known as mandated restrictor plates. What this would do is it would limit the horsepower and slow speeds down. Since Elliott set his speed record, only 15 pole winners have gone into the 200-mile per hour range. 11 of them at Michigan, 2 at Texas, and 1 each at Daytona Beach and Talladega. Absent major rule changes that nobody expects, odds are good Elliott's record is never going to get touched again. Just too much speed, and with the cars being choked, not happening. Now, this one is kind of I call it a good thing and a bad thing. Back in the days, guys like Cale Yarborough would win 3 in a row for the Cup Series titles in 76, 77, 78. 5 previous champs had won back-to-back titles, so 3 was kind of unprecedented. However, Jimmy Johnson would go on to win 5 straight between 2006 and 2010. They came under several different point systems, and his 2013 and 2016 titles were also under different systems. NASCAR's last 6 champions, Kevin Harvick, Kyle Busch, Johnson, Martin Truex Jr., Joey Logano, and Busch again, got the heavy hardware by winning the season finale at Homestead. The way the playoff system works right now is it's kind of a game of elimination. The last for the lack of a better word, I think it's about 4, 6, 8, 4, 8, 12, about 20 races that finish off your season. What happens is the last 4 guys will race for the title. And whoever finishes first wins the whole kit and caboodle. Back then, they didn't have this, as they call it, a crapshoot format. Johnson won 5 straight this way, and odds are good. I don't see it being broken up anytime soon. I mean, you do have your favorites. Let's not, beat around the bush. There's still guys out there. Kyle Busch, Ryan Blaney, my guy, Champ Elliott. But the thing is that, again, all you have to do in that last race, have engine problems, have a tire go down. Any number of things could go wrong, and if you're in that last race, there goes your season. But odds are good, given that 4-driver championship deciding format remains. I don't see anybody even approaching Johnson's record of 5 straight. That just probably would not happen. Now, here is your record for dubiousness. A guy named J.D. McDuffie. He went 0 for 653.
I said before, and I'll say it again. Nobody wants that record. Even if they could do it, nobody wants that record.
To give you an idea how crazy 0 for 653 is like, in Major League Baseball, a baseball player might get 600 at-bats in a full season. Imagine going a whole season without hitting the ball once. That's how bad this was. And, the thing is, every year they have X number of races. Every year, you basically have to hope you get sponsorship. They pay for your car if something goes wrong. Repairs are needed. But, it says nobody in NASCAR Cup Series.
How is it that nobody just I'm not sponsoring you after race 100?
Yeah. Started his career in 1963 at the Myrtle Beach Speedway. The sad part is that he would wind up dying behind the wheel in a 1-car accident at Watkins Glen on August 11th, 1991. It says it seems inconceivable that anyone will ever match that record without winning. Buddy Arrington had an 0 for 560 streak. The late Neil Soapy Castles went 0 for 498, and then of course the retired Cup driver Dave Blaney is 0 for 473. The closest to McDuffie's right now, Michael McDowell, at 0 for 325, is the non-winningest active driver, but he's still 328 behind McDuffie. So, the only thing I can think of is that maybe they use it for a tax write-off or something. But to have that sort of money to put a car out week after week after week, it's kind of crazy, the stats and stuff involved there. Now, besides that, you have Jeff Gordon, 23 season, 797 start consecutive streak. Now, his first Cup start near Atlanta in November of 1992 came the day Petty made his last start. Beginning in Daytona Beach the next February, the future 4-time champion and Hall of Famer would make every start for the next 23 years. Wow. Through 2015. The streak of 797 starts likely is going to be untouchable when you consider the next 4 in line are retired. The 6th line, a currently active leader, Jimmy Johnson, will probably retire after this year, and he's at 684. But yeah, that's almost 800 starts consecutively. That's pretty crazy. Next up, you got Ricky Rudd, who just got put into the Hall of Fame. Kind of cool. Um, he first career stock car race would come in the Cup Series. He was a teenager in 1979, never raced in any kind of car. When NASCAR approved him for the March 2nd, 1975 race at North Carolina Motor Speedway in Rockingham. He had dabbled in motocross and go-karts, but had never been on a NASCAR track except in test sessions, even though he qualified 26th and finished 11th in a Bill Champion-owned number 10 Ford. Well, Rudd would make 905 more starts over 33 seasons with 29 poles and 23 victories. Now retired, he'll remain the only NASCAR Cup Series driver with 0 prior experience, since NASCAR would never allow that today. Yeah, I can't see somebody, I want to race this. No, I don't think so. Get out of here. This one is another victim of the restrictor plates. Mark Martin in 1987 would have an average race speed of 188.354 miles per hour at Talladega. Now, two things played into this. First of all, there's been very, very few caution-free Cup races. Most recently, there was one with Dale Jarrett in a victory in Michigan in 1999. In the May 10th, 1997 race at Winston 500, was also caution-free with Mark Martin covering the 188 laps, just over 500 miles, in 2 hours, 39 minutes, and 18 seconds for an average winning speed of 188.354. Now, the late John Andretti would win the pole that weekend with 193.627. Now, as long as NASCAR uses the competition cautions to slow down the field during the stage racing, which they do right now, there's no chance anybody's ever going to beat this record because it automatically starts to handicap the crews. And they actually got the numbers there. I wonder if it's 87 or 97. Whoever typed this up is legally blind.
Numbers.
Numbers
are hard.
Now, this one I want to do research on because I'm not sure how in the world you would win this way. Ned Jarrett won a race in 1965, 14 laps ahead of the nearest guy. Ned, much beloved, 1961 and 65 champion, won 50 races, easily good enough for the Hall of Fame. Now, among these victories was the Southern 500 at Venerable Darlington on Labor Day in 65. He would win 13 and 54 starts in 65, and the 14-lap margin of victory over future Hall of Famer Buck Baker on a Monday afternoon was his most impressive. Now, the last Cup Series winner to lap the field was Jeffrey Bodine over Terry Labonte by a lap in North Wilkesboro on October 2nd, 1994. So the two things I can only think of is that whether earlier in the race more of the people ran into engine problems and Jarrett just kept right on going, or they had a number of guys that just were having really bad changes in the pits. But yeah, I can't imagine being down by 14 laps. I mean, that's just a lot of drivers trying to go around on these tracks.
Right.
Now, the only other story that makes me think of this is there was one that involved Bill Elliott. And it was kind of legendary. It kind of cemented Bill's history into the race here real quick. There we go. Again, one of my favorite drivers. His son's driving right now. He's 69 years old. He doesn't compete in the NASCAR anymore, but, he's kind of grown into kind of a living legend. Nicknames like Awesome Bill from Dawsonville, one of my favorites. Wild Bill, $1 Million Bill. Uh, but there was one race that it was kind of the legend of how good of a racer. Not only was Elliott good, it was the fact that it was a family project. You know, one of his, I think his dad was starting on it. Uh, Another uncle helped design the engines. They were constantly tinkering, trying to get things to work just right. Um, Again, holds the track record for the fast qualifying speed at Talladega and the Daytona. The mark at Talladega is the fastest qualifying speed for any NASCAR race ever. And again, locked down due to the restrictor plates, highly unlikely anybody will ever break those two races. He was the first NASCAR driver to win what was known as the Winston Million, a $1 million bonus to any driver who could win 3 out of the 4 crown jewel races of NASCAR in a single season. The Daytona 500, the Winston 500 at Talladega, the World 600 at Charlotte, and the Southern 500 at Darlington. In the year dominated by Elliott, he would win the NASCAR modern era single season record of 11 super speedway races with 4 season sweeps at Atlanta, Pocono, Michigan, and Darlington, 11 poles, and 3 of those 11 wins were being at the Daytona 500, the Winston 500, and the Southern 500, earning the $1 million bonus. But the thing that really got crazy in one of his races is that he would start off with early trouble. And, he would wind up being down a few laps. And most of the guys are like, well, just go ahead and, do as best as you can. Well, he would literally just chase down the rest of the pack. He was not the type of guy just to sit back and let it happen. So he would wind up racing just right out of the woodwork and actually managed to come all the way back to finish. Let's see what we got here for the stats. But yeah, Elliott would wind up finishing his career. He had 55 poles, 44 wins, 320 top tens, which, is pretty decent. His first win came in 1983, the Winston Western 500, last win in 2003. And of course, son's now racing in NASCAR as well. But tomorrow we have the qualifying and practice laps. Thursday we'll have the 2 races, again, to set the stage for the Daytona that'll be raced on Sunday. David is highly excited for this, and
no,
to be honest, I find it kind of fun too, because David loves his racing. It's also interesting because his driver gets a chance to compete as well, because Truex has got a chance to try to get into the field too. So, but
how
again, huh?
How dare you?
Oh, exactly. But this has been the Bearded Historian, and you folks, we will catch you next week, and have a good one out there.
What am I calling this? NASCAR
history.
okay.
Or records.
I was going to say records, and then
Yeah, there you go.
my brain went blank, and
NASCAR records would be good.
all right, well, I had some records to put up.
Yep.